A cardiologist turned entrepreneur, Dr. Srikanth Sola, is tackling air pollution with his startup, Devic Earth. Now, this Bengaluru-based startup provides plug-and-play air pollution control equipment for heavy industries, factories, businesses, and outdoor spaces. To discuss this in detail, we're in conversation with CEO of Devic Earth, Dr. Srikanth Sola. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Dr. Sola, Devic Earth has come up with this air purification system called Pure Skies that claims to cut air pollution by at least 33% across large areas. Now, this sounds like a major breakthrough. Could you explain this in detail?
As a cardiologist, I worked a lot with cardiac MRI scans of the heart. And how do MRI scanners work? By sending pulsed radio waves into the body. The radio waves bounce back, gets picked up by an antenna, and computers turn it to beautiful images. Those same pulsed radio waves, when we change them, can create a very weak electromagnetic field that speeds up how nature clears certain pollutants from the air. Not all pollutants, but the ones that are most damaging to health. PM10, PM2.5, the microscopic ones that we hear about so much in the news these days. So what we've done basically is take what's happening in nature and make it go at a much faster rate.
I think this technology definitely sounds very interesting and also very promising. I also want to understand, why did you choose to focus on heavy industries per se?
So when we look at where does air pollution come from? It comes from transportation, it comes from industries, it comes from burning of waste. All of these contribute, and many more, to air pollution. But where do we see pollution the highest? It's probably either in really intense hotspots inside cities or in heavy industries. Now, heavy industries have a huge need to reduce their emissions, right? Otherwise, they're going to get fined. They can get shutdowns. One of our customers in Chile is a mining company. Their plant was shut down by the national government due to failure to meet air pollution norms. They lost $22 million every day that they were shut down during the 7-week fine period. So it's a huge incentive for companies to avoid fines, shutdowns, nuisance complaints, but also because they want to meet their ESG goals, their sustainability goals. They want to be good neighbors to the communities that are around them. They want to reduce the environmental impact of manufacturing, whether it's they're making steel, cement, mining, specialty chemicals, and all the things that we use in our day-to-day lives.
When we say, doctor, that Pure Skies can tackle pollution and reduce pollutants from the air and provide clean air, can we also say that it can track airborne viruses?
There is good evidence from work that we had done at IIT Kanpur, and which was then replicated at an ICMR lab called Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology. Basically, virus particles, as well as micropollutant particles like PM10 and 2.5, they float around in the air. And what can happen, especially with the PM 2.5 and 10, naturally they coagulate. This happens in nature. They coalesce, and now they're heavier, and then they settle down to the ground. This depositing of these pollutants on the air is called dry deposition. The same thing happens, but in a slightly different way, to viruses and bacteria. What we discovered during our laboratory and field work was that by using pulsed radio waves, we use pulsed Wi-Fi. So it's as safe as the Wi-Fi that we use in our homes, and Wi-Fi is safe to use in humans, plants, and animals. What happens is when you do this, you speed up the rate at which they coalesce. There's a just slight change in their magnetic force, and so they coagulate much faster. The same thing happens in viruses, and it's found that we are able to reduce airborne COVID by 60%. Now, I know that nobody wants to talk about COVID anymore, but the good news is our team is working really hard on making a small medical device about this big that we can then use to reduce our exposure to viral pathogens that are in there, influenza and other respiratory viruses.
How is Pure Skies tackling something like extreme weather events and climate change? Is that posing
climate change and air pollution, they go hand in hand, right? And we're no longer talking about global warming, it's global heating. And I think we're going to see more and much more such extreme weather events in the years to come. how do we tackle climate change? By reducing our emissions of greenhouse gas, by making our appliances and industries, homes, buildings more energy efficient. And when we do require energy, trying to shift the transition to renewable energy and away from fossil fuel-based energy sources. Now, some of these sources of renewable energy, like solar, work very well during certain parts of the day. But when air pollution is high, when you have high levels of PM10 and 2.5, what do you think happens to the efficiency of these solar panels? It goes down.
Absolutely.
In fact, you can lose efficiency by 30% or more on heavily polluted days. And so just having clean air can actually improve your renewable energy output and help to offset emissions further just by enhancing your renewable energy utilization.
You're a cardiologist turned entrepreneur, and I think that is really inspiring. I also want to know what led to the creation of Devic Earth. Why the name Devic Earth? And when did you realize that, you know, the world needs something like Pure Skies as a product that can provide clean air to them?
You know, Devic Earth is dedicated to my patients as a cardiologist. When I moved to India from the United States in 2008, I came here because I wanted to serve the country. I joined Sathya Sai Super Hospital, which is an amazing charity hospital here in Bangalore. And in my first week as a cardiologist, I saw these young patients in their 20s and 30s with heart attacks due to air pollution. I had read about this in my medical textbooks, but now I was seeing it firsthand. And I actually lost some of our patients because their heart attacks were so massive. And imagine I had to go out afterwards and tell the family, the wife and their young daughter, the two parents who are hardly in their 40s, 50s, and say, I'm sorry, we did everything we could, but we couldn't save his life. And that really got me to thinking, there must be something more than we can do. How many angioplasty operations can I, as one doctor, do? Well, it's just a drop in the bucket compared to the massive problem. Air pollution kills 7 million lives every year, almost $3 trillion in economic loss to the global economy. Because I'd done a lot of biomedical engineering work in the United States, I was able to put together a team of engineers and scientists. And long story short, after 10 years of R&D, making sure the product was safe, making sure it was effective, make sure it was robust, we launched Devic Earth. Devic as in Bhumi Devi, Mother Earth. We launched Devic Earth to bring clean air to the people. Why? So that we can bring clean air to that auto driver who is my patient, or that taxi driver, or that shoe cobbler, or the fellow living in the slums with their family. They're my patients, and I want to make sure that they stay as healthy as they can.
That's wonderful. I also want to know, Dr. Sola, what has been the response from your clients, and what is it that you have been able to understand when it comes to the demand for a product like Pure Skies?
Every new technology takes a while to get accepted, and that's normal. But what happens is when the customers see the results, they see that air quality is getting lower. They see that the air they're breathing is improving. Sometimes the results are modest. If the air is already clean, we might improve air quality by 30, 40%. Sometimes when the air is heavily polluted, the reductions can be as high as 50 to 70%. Outdoors. And we're talking not over a small area. Our installations cover 250 acres for a zinc smelting plant, 750 acres for a steel plant, and we covered 24 square kilometers in the city of Lucknow, covering 5 pollution hotspots, improving air quality by 30 to 50% for more than 2.5 lakh people every day. Lucknow City actually won the Most Improved City Award from the National Clean Air Program after this installation. Now that feels great, and our customers benefit too, because they know that, hey, we're making our manufacturing more sustainable. We're making our cities a better place to live. We're reducing cost because we're not having a leakage due to the lower productivity that we see with air pollution.
Absolutely. Ever since I started covering environment and climate crisis, I've come across multiple reports that, keep warning people about the impact of air pollution, how it impacts the environment, how it's choking the planet, how it's impacting human health. But there's one question that I always want to ask, people who are in this industry. Do you think we're doing enough, especially in India, that is one of the most polluted countries in the world right now? Do you think we're doing enough to tackle the crisis?
When we started Devic Earth in 2018, we would go to these government meetings that were focused on improving air quality.
Right.
And there would be a handful of people inside the auditorium, and everybody else will be outside watching videos on their WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2023, and these rooms are packed. You've got everybody from the State Pollution Control Board. There's a guy from the Solid Municipal Waste Division of the city. There's somebody from transportation, or a team of people from the transportation department. The municipal commissioner is there with his assistants. There's like 10 different departments in the auditorium, and they all want to work together. And that's a huge change in the last few years. It's amazing. It's totally amazing. And we feel so happy because, you know, all of these people are working together to save lives. They're all working together to make the air cleaner. They're all working together to build a better quality of life for everyone. So we're seeing a huge on-the-ground movement. And what's even more encouraging is the National Clean Air Program. It's India's framework for improving air quality. When they found that the results from where they started in 2019 to 2022 were actually pretty good. You know, they weren't out of the park. It wasn't a sixer, but they were hitting some boundaries. And then they said, you know what? Let's increase the target from a 20 to 30% improvement to a 40% improvement. So now the goalpost, or the goal, has been raised even higher. And that's encouraging. I think it's just going to be a matter of time before we see massive differences in air quality for the whole country.
You know, every success story is a story also of challenges. What were the challenges that you encountered on this journey with Devic Earth?
Yeah, the first challenge was, you know, I'm a doctor who used to do heart transplants. And then I became CEO of a green technology company. I'm not the finance guy. You know, don't ask me about how to spend money because, you know, as a heart transplant, it costs $1 million. It's really no big deal for us as the transplant doctor who goes in. That's cool because it also gives me a different way of thinking. It allows me to think about how am I going to handle teams? How am I going to encourage people to bring high performance? And how can we build high performing teams? And you know what? We have great people working at Devic Earth, and everyone that we see is so dedicated. I love it when, you know, recently we had a professor from IIT Madras visit us. He spent time with our R&D team downstairs. And he came back to me afterwards and he said, you know, you have a very dedicated, a very devoted team. And I felt like, you know, smiles going from here to here. That's what it takes is there are going to be challenges, right? There are going to be financial challenges. There are going to be mishaps. There are going to be just time to getting acceptance for a brand new technology that works in a different way from previous things. You want to prove safety over and over again because people will always ask that question. You want to make your technology so robust that it can be installed in the United States and Europe and Australia and every other developed country. But when you have a great team, when you have a supportive team, it makes the journey so much funner.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dr. Sola, if you could summarize the mission of Devic Earth in one line, how would that go?
We're here to save 1 million lives from air pollution every year.
The work that Devic Earth is doing is really, really interesting, and I wish you all the best. I hope you're able to save more lives and also spread more awareness about air pollution, also the need for something like pure skies in a country like India. All the very best, and thank you so much for joining me for this interview.
Great. And thank you, Navya. Thank you.